Asterisk, asterisk. Can a broken heart leave a biological scar? Asterisk, asterisk. The room is silent, but humming. Sterile white walls, machines blinking steadily, a quiet chorus of life suspended and stitched back together. A woman, pale, trembling, stitched across the chest awakens. From surgery, her heart is no longer hers. Somewhere, someone else's heart now beats within her. Weeks pass. Her recovery is uneventful, but something is different. At night, she dreams of places she's never been. A red bicycle speeding down, a rural road, a man's laughter. She wakes with a craving for beer and fried chicken foods she's never touched in her life. The oddity becomes obsession. One day, driven by unease, she searches for information about her donor. She finds the name, then the obituary. Her dreams begin to align with stories she finds in the donor's life. The bike, the food, the laughter. It all belonged to him. How could this be? Can emotions, love, loss, grief actually embed themselves in our cells? Is it possible that memory and identity, long assumed to reside only in the brain, might also take root in the body, in tissues, even in the cells of the heart? These are not isolated anecdotes. Across the world, recipients of organ transplants' hearts have reported sudden shifts in personality, preferences, and dreams that eerily echo those of their donors. One man developed a passion for classical music after receiving the heart of a violinist. A woman found herself inexplicably drawn to spiritual practices she had never believed in, only to discover her donor had been a devoted mystic. These stories, as unsettling as they are fascinating, provoke a fundamental question: where exactly do we store our experiences? The idea that the heart can remember is ancient, entwined in poetry, religion, and myth, but science has long dismissed it as metaphor. Emotions, memories, the essence of who we are, these are supposed to live in neural circuits, synaptic pathways, the electrical storms of the brain. And yet, if that were entirely true, how can we explain these post-transplant echoes? This question strikes at the heart of a controversial concept gaining traction in disciplines from neuroscience to epigenetics, cellular memory. The theory suggests that memory, whether of trauma, habit, or emotional experience, might not be confined to the brain, but could be distributed throughout the body. That cells themselves, in muscles, organs, even in blood, might carry an imprint of the life they once supported. It's a provocative idea. For some, it reeks of mysticism or pseudoscience. But emerging studies in epigenetics reveal that our cells do remember in subtle, chemical ways the stresses and environments of their past. Trauma experienced by one generation can leave molecular signatures that affect descendants. Neurons grown in petri dishes fire in recognizable patterns tied to previous stimuli. Muscle cells adapt not just to motion, but to the emotions that drive it. Memory, it seems, is more diffuse and embodied than we've ever imagined in this chapter. We won't dive into mysticism or unverified claims. Instead, we'll follow the science, sometimes unsettling, always compelling as it begins to uncover the biology of emotion, and perhaps even of heartbreak. We'll examine real cases of transplant recipients whose lives were altered in uncanny ways. And we'll talk to scientists challenging the long-held assumption that only the brain can hold the past. Because if cellular memory exists, even in the faintest trace, it changes everything we think we know about the boundary between body and self, between mind and matter. And it might mean that love and loss don't just hurt metaphorically, but leave actual scars etched in the living tissue of our hearts. Asterisk, asterisk. Where do our emotions live? Asterisk, asterisk, for centuries, the question of where our emotions reside has been tangled in philosophical debates. René Descartes, the 17th century philosopher who famously separated mind and body, argued that the mind was a distinct, immaterial entity separate from the physical body. According to Cartesian dualism, emotions were part of this non-physical mind, a realm of thoughts and feelings untethered from the flesh. Emotions, in this view, were ephemeral, intangible, and just in your head, disconnected from the bodily machinery that keeps us alive. This framework shaped scientific thought for hundreds of years, reinforcing the idea that the body was a biological vessel and the mind an invisible, ethereal overseer. Yet modern science paints a very different picture. Emotions are no longer treated as purely mental phenomena, but understood as deeply physiological processes, intertwined with complex chemical reactions, hormones coursing through the bloodstream, and electrical impulses firing between neurons. Far from being separate, the emotional experience is embedded within the body's intricate systems. When you feel fear, your heart races not because your mind commands it, but because your body responds through a cascade of biological signals. When love or grief takes hold, it is reflected in shifts of neurotransmitters, changes in hormone levels, and patterns of neural activity that ripple through both brain and body. A particularly fascinating discovery in this field is neurocardiology, a branch of science examining how the heart and brain communicate, just metaphorically, but biochemically and neurologically. Contrary to the old idea that the heart is a simple pump, research has revealed that it possesses its own little brain, an intrinsic cardiac nervous system housing roughly 40,000 neurons. This network can sense, process, and even remember information independently of the central nervous system. The heart sends more signals to the brain than the brain sends to the heart, challenging our assumptions about control and influence within our bodies. It suggests that the heart actively participates in shaping our emotional experiences and perhaps even our memories. Beyond this, the emerging science of epigenetics adds another layer of complexity. We now know that stress, trauma, and emotional pain leave chemical marks, epigenetic modifications on our genes, which can alter how they are expressed. These changes don't rewrite our DNA sequence, but influence which genes are turned on or off, potentially affecting how our bodies respond to the world. Remarkably, some epigenetic marks can be passed down through generations, meaning the scars of emotional suffering may ripple far beyond the individual who first endured them. This biological legacy can shape vulnerability to anxiety, depression, and even physical illnesses in today's world, where rates of anxiety, heart disease, and trauma-related disorders are climbing. These insights take on urgent relevance. Our biology may be carrying more than the imprint of our own experiences. It might be burdened by the echoes of trauma past. If emotions physically alter our bodies, embedding themselves in tissues and genes, the divide between mental and physical health becomes increasingly blurred. This challenges long-standing approaches in medicine and psychology, suggesting that treating the mind in isolation from the body, or vice versa, may overlook crucial pathways of healing. That at stake is a profound shift in how we understand ourselves, not as fragmented beings with a mind trapped inside a machine, but as deeply integrated organisms whose emotional lives are inscribed across body and brain. Recognizing this interconnectedness could transform the way we approach health, trauma, and resilience, offering new hope for those carrying scars both seen and unseen. The donor's memories. Imagine a young child, fragile and fighting for life, receiving a heart transplant that offers a second chance. But after the surgery, the child's nights are haunted by vivid nightmares, terrifying scenes of violence, shadowy figures, and muffled cries. These aren't the typical dreams of a recovering patient. They are unsettlingly specific, filled with details the child could never have known. Over time, the fragments of these nightmares begin to form a chilling narrative. With the help of the child's family and medical team, investigators use the dreams to identify the person responsible for the donor's death, a killer previously unknown to law enforcement. This extraordinary case pushes the boundaries of what we believe about memory and the body. Skeptics are quick to offer explanations. Coincidence? The trauma of major surgery triggering subconscious fears? Or perhaps the placebo effect, a psychological response to the transplant itself? Yet, this story is far from unique. Multiple peer-reviewed studies have documented strikingly similar accounts from heart transplant recipients who report acquiring new tastes, habits, fears, and memories linked to their donors. Some even recall specific events or recognize people they never met. These aren't isolated anecdotes, but a growing body of documented cases that challenge conventional thinking. Medical professionals and scientists remain divided. Many dismiss these phenomena as coincidence or psychological responses to the immense stress of transplantation. To them, cellular memory sounds too poetic, too mystical and alluring, but unproven idea with little basis in biology. On the other hand, a small but persistent group of researchers argue that these experiences point to something deeper. They believe organs may carry more than mere function. They may harbor fragments of the donor's life, encoded somehow in cells beyond the brain. This debate is not just academic, it forces us to question the very foundations of memory, identity, and what it means to carry another's organ within us. The dilemma is profound. If organs do carry experiential as if memory and identity are distributed throughout the body, could revolutionize medicine, forcing us to rethink transplantation, ethics, patient care, and even our concept of self. It would suggest that the boundaries between bodies and minds are far more porous than we imagined. Yet, this notion is often dismissed as too poetic or romanticized, reminiscent of how ideas like neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, were initially ridiculed. What was once considered impossible or fanciful can, with time and evidence, become scientific truth. This tension between skepticism and wonder lies at the heart of the mystery. The donor's memories, passed on in whispers through transplanted hearts, beckon us to explore the unknown, challenging us to bridge the gap between biology and experience, between science and the soul. Asterisk, memory without a brain. Asterisk, as science pushes beyond traditional boundaries, a radical idea emerges. Memory, emotion, and even thought may not reside solely within the brain, but are distributed throughout the body. This concept, known as embodied cognition, challenges the centuries-old notion that our minds are confined to neural circuits alone. Instead, it posits that the body itself, its tissues, muscles, and organs, plays an active role in shaping how we think, remember, and feel. Our lived experiences, trauma included, may be inscribed not just in synapses but in the very cells of our bodies. Recent research in somatic psychology reveals that trauma can become physically embedded in muscle tissue and organ systems. People suffering from PTSD often report chronic pain, muscular tension, altered posture, and irregular heart rhythms, suggesting the body holds onto emotional wounds long after the mind has tried to move on. Studies indicate that trauma can induce lasting changes in the nervous and immune systems, leading to physiological patterns that perpetuate distress. This interplay between mind and body raises new questions about how memories, especially painful ones, are stored and expressed beyond conscious awareness. Historically, early pioneers in heart transplantation, like Dr. Christian Barnard, who performed the world's first successful human heart transplant in the late 1960s, noticed unsettling personality shifts in patients post-surgery. Some recipients exhibited changes in preferences, moods, and behaviors that seemed inexplicable by conventional medical explanations. Yet, Barnard and his contemporaries were pressured by the medical establishment to suppress these observations, warned against entertaining notions that bordered on the metaphysical. The stigma of crossing from hard science into speculative territory kept the dialogue tightly controlled and marginalized. Today, these observations resurface with renewed urgency, bringing forth profound ethical dilemmas. If trauma and emotional experiences can imprint themselves on cells, could patients inherit emotional or psychological residues from donors? Could organ donation unknowingly transmit fragments of trauma or memory? Should prospective recipients be informed about the possibility of such changes, however rare or poorly understood? The collision of emerging science with medical ethics ignites tension between caution, respect for patient autonomy, and the yearning to understand the full implications of transplantation. This tension ripples outward, influencing diverse fields. In psychotherapy, practitioners increasingly recognize how bodywork and somatic therapies can unlock memories and trauma held in the body, bridging gaps between mind and tissue. Transplant medicine faces new questions about how to screen, counsel, and care for recipients in light of potential psychological and emotional shifts. End-of-life care, too, contemplates what it means to donate organs that may carry more than physiological function, possibly fragments of identity or experience. Meanwhile, philosophies of consciousness are challenged to consider whether mind and memory might transcend the brain's borders, weaving a more integrated picture of self. Research is beginning to probe these frontiers with scientific rigor. Epigenetic tagging reveals how stress hormones can leave chemical marks on DNA within heart tissue, potentially influencing cellular function long after trauma has passed. Memory traces have been identified in non-neural cells, suggesting that even muscle and organ cells may harbor molecular memories of past events. While this science remains nascent and controversial, it opens the door to rethinking the biology of memory and emotion, not as confined to the mind alone, but as a complex body-wide phenomenon. At the heart of this exploration lies a profound question: can memory exist without a brain? And if so, what does that mean for our understanding of identity, healing, and the very essence of being human? The answers remain elusive, tangled in mystery and discovery, but their pursuit promises to transform how we perceive ourselves and care for one another in body, mind, and spirit. The heart remembers. In a groundbreaking breakthrough, researchers in Germany have uncovered something startling. Heart cells, subjected to stress, exhibit genetic signatures remarkably similar to those found in the brains of patients who have experienced deep emotional trauma. These molecular fingerprints are not mere echoes, but precise patterns indicating that the heart, at a cellular level, responds to emotional pain in ways once thought impossible. This discovery bridges the divide between mind and body, showing that the heart's biology is not just passively affected by emotion, but actively records its marks. Further studies have illuminated How emotional trauma can fundamentally alter mitochondrial function, the powerhouse of cells that fuels every heartbeat and breath. When mitochondria falter under emotional duress, they affect cellular energy and resilience, changing how heart tissue operates and adapts. This biochemical transformation suggests that the heart's response to grief, loss, or love is not symbolic, but deeply physical, rewriting cellular behavior through stress-induced metabolic shifts. The surprising insight emerging from this research reframes the notion of memory itself. The heart doesn't remember in the cognitive way the brain does, storing thoughts and images. Instead, it remembers like a wound through enduring molecular patterns and physiological reactions. Much like scar tissue forms after injury, altering the texture and function of the heart muscle, emotional trauma leaves behind invisible scars, altered gene expressions, mitochondrial changes, and biochemical imprints that shape how the heart functions and feels. This realization overturns centuries of assumptions. The heart's memory is not narrative or conscious, but biological, embedded in the very fabric of its tissue. It is a memory of experience written in molecules and energy, flows a physical record of heartbreak, grief, and love that can reshape the organ itself. The heart remembers not as a mind might, but as a body might through transformation, adaptation, and scars that tell a story without words. In this way, science uncovers a profound truth. The emotional lives we lead literally sculpt our hearts. Love and loss, joy and pain, do more than ripple through our thoughts. They reach deep into the tissue, changing the heart's very nature. This revelation not only expands our understanding of the heart's role, but challenges the boundary between biology and emotion, between physical reality and lived experience. The heart remembers, and in doing so, it invites us to reconsider what it means to carry a broken heart. Perhaps it is a scar more real than we ever imagined. Asterisk, asterisk. Biology of brokenness, asterisk, asterisk. Modern science offers a nuanced understanding that reframes the idea of cellular memory not as literal memory stored in the cells, but as a form of biological adaptation. Our bodies are dynamic, responsive systems that shift and change in response to emotional experience. Emotions are not just fleeting feelings, but powerful forces that alter hormone levels, gene expression, immune function, and even the rhythm and strength of the heart itself. These changes are measurable, real, and have profound effects on health and well-being. One of the clearest examples of this biological interplay is Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, commonly known as broken heart syndrome. This condition, triggered by extreme emotional stress, such as grief or trauma, mimics the symptoms of a heart attack: chest pain, shortness of breath, and heart muscle weakness. Yet unlike a heart attack caused by blocked arteries, broken heart syndrome results from a sudden surge of stress hormones that stunned the heart, temporarily impairing its function. It reveals how intimately the heart responds to emotional pain, underscoring that heartbreak is more than metaphor. It is a physiological reality. What offers hope within this complex interplay is the growing evidence that emotional healing can reverse these effects. Therapeutic approaches, ranging from psychotherapy and somatic therapies to music and forgiveness, show promising results in restoring not only mental health, but also physical markers of heart and immune system function. The heart, while unable to think, can adapt and recover when supported by healing emotional environments. This suggests that the tissue can carry the aftermath of feeling, but is not doomed to bear it forever. The body's biological scars can fade with care, compassion, and connection, In this way, the body can be seen as a journal of experience, one that records emotional events, not always accessible to conscious thought or brain-based memory. The heart and cells write these stories silently in hormones and proteins, rhythms and signals, patterns that the brain may not always read, but that shape who we are. The biology of brokenness, then, is both a testament to the depth of human feeling and a reminder of the resilience embedded in our cells. While the heart doesn't remember like the mind, it responds profoundly, carrying the traces of our emotional lives as it beats forward, open to both suffering and healing. Asterisk, asterisk, what else are we carrying? Asterisk, asterisk, as we draw this journey to a close. A quiet question lingers in the air. If our cells carry the imprints of our joys and traumas, the echoes of lives lived both vividly and painfully, what do we owe to them? We often think of ourselves as minds, housed within bodies, as consciousness floating inside flesh. But the truth runs deeper and more beautifully complex. We are not just our thoughts or memories. We are the rhythm of our heartbeat, the scars etched beneath our skin, the stories inscribed in each cell's silent language. This awareness invites a profound kind of awe, recognition that we are living tapestries woven from countless moments, not only experienced, but biologically recorded. Every pulse, every breath, every ache and healing carries a tale. Our bodies are the keepers of these narratives, sometimes hidden, sometimes expressed in ways beyond words. To heal is not simply to forget or erase pain, but to help the body rewrite its story, to transform scars into chapters of resilience, wounds into markers of growth. Perhaps healing isn't forgetting. Perhaps healing is helping the body tell the story in a different way. To listen deeply to what our cells whisper, to honor the invisible burdens they carry, and to embrace the interconnectedness of mind, body, and memory. In this interconnected dance, we glimpse the full complexity of what it means to be human, fragile yet strong, scarred yet whole, endlessly adapting and carrying the weight of love and loss with every beat of our hearts.